Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/figureoutyourlife. With over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, and Kindle. Now let's get to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Let me stop playing. Welcome to Figure Out Your Life podcast, the podcast where we find answers to some of life's everyday problems. I'm your host, Toya T, aka Toya T PhD, aka the sis from another miss, yo sister from another mister, aka your laughing assassin, your giggle monster, aka the girlfriend that you need but didn't know that you wanted. Anyway, let me stop playing. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the podcast. I'm happy to be back as usual. Before we begin, I want to give a special thanks to all of my friends who reviewed my podcast on Apple Podcasts for me. I sent out a blast because, I'm trying to get to 50 reviews, 50 ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, but it's really Apple Podcasts because iTunes doesn't really exist anymore. But by the end of the year, which is next month, and I sent out a text blast and was able to get my ratings up to I think 23, 24. So I want to thank my friends so much for responding and going ahead and doing that for me. I really, really appreciate it. And if you haven't done it, even if you're not on my in my contact list, if you're just a listener, please, if you can, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast or iTunes and you have access to it, like you have an iTunes account, can you please just go in and give this podcast a rating and review? You don't even have to even do the review part, but just at least put the stars in so that the podcast can be found by more people so we can continue to grow as a group. And so I can feel better about the fact that I'm still unemployed with my PhD. But at least I have a successful podcast. So let's help a sister out. Okay. Anyway, so let's kind of get into what's been going on this past week, which I don't know. It seems like quite a blur for me. I don't know why. I can't seem to remember what has been going on in the world recently. Like, there's a lot of bullshit going on. I mean, we have the impeachment inquiries happening in Congress, and I haven't really been keeping up with it because I'm the kind of person that just kind of waits for the results. Like, yo, just tell me when you're going to impeach this fool. Just get to it, because you're saying a lot of stuff. We do know that he's corrupt. We know that he's a awful president, awful person, and has broken a lot of laws and rules and has disrespected the office of the presidency of the United States of America. But we knew that when they had the whole Robert Mueller investigation, and everybody got arrested except for him. And so I'm waiting for the results of this to actually be able to, be really interested in it, because there are people out there that are really gearing up for, the re-election of this fucktard. I was driving around. Where was I? I was in Boston. I was in Dorchester, which is where my old neighborhood where I grew up, in like the city of Boston, not outside where I live now, but in the city of Boston. And I saw this car that had, I don't think it's spray paint, but it's like the the temporary, like kind of like spray paint that you can do on your windshield or your back windshield. And someone had Trump 2020 on there. And I was like, yo, like, we are not even in full election season and you ready fucking campaigning for this fucktard. Like, oh my gosh, like, how can you be so fucking stupid? And I definitely don't want to be anywhere near you. Although I did try to follow him to see who was in there, but I think we could already guess who was, what kind of person was driving that car. Although I could have been surprised. It could have been a black woman that looks just like me, but I highly doubt I don't think there's too many Candace Owens out there, and we already know how Black women voted on this the past election, presidential election, that we voted like we had sense. Unlike unfortunately, unlike our white counterparts who, again, if you've ever talked to me in person, I've told you I don't trust white women that I don't know because they showed their ass with this. They show their ass with their votes and their actions. You're going to have to prove to me that you are not against women's interests. You're not against other women's interests, and you're not against like world interest. And that is what they showed me with that election, overwhelmingly voting for this fucktard. Can't even vote for another white woman, which is surprising. Like, damn, identity politics is dead with white women, I guess. They're white first, women second. And I guess for Black women, we're just Black women, like both at the same time, somehow finding how to be intersectional. But then again, for those who are outside of the dominant group, when you're a minority, racial, sexual, gender, whatever, you tend to have to deal with those identities more than other people. But anyway, let me not get into a lecture because that's not what you came here for. So this past week, I have no idea what's going on in my personal life. I was productive. If for those who follow me on Instagram at Latoya T, Latoyat, or at Figure Out Your Life Pod, which is this podcast, personal Instagram, the Instagram for this, specifically for this podcast. You've noticed that I haven't been posting anything, and that is because I am in Instagram jail, more like Instagram prison. I am prisoner 10034781215,000. Again, this is my second stint in Instagram prison. The first time I definitely did do what they accused me of, but this time I am definitely locked up, won't let me out, but I'm innocent. Well, so if you don't know, Instagram has like community guidelines that say that you cannot do more than 50 actions, like of all the actions. So liking, commenting, following, unfollowing, posting. You can't do more than 50 actions within an hour. And I diligently go through my following list because I'm trying to grow, following. And I also don't, especially from my personal account, I just don't like having a whole bunch of people that, I followed to kind of spread, to get in contact with other people, and then they're not following me back. So at the end of each week, after I follow a bunch of people, I go through and see who follows me back, and then I unfollow those people. And I usually do that on Sundays. And I did that and got locked out of my account. I think I said it in the last episode. So I'm in jail until the 18th, which is today, because I'm recording, of course, today on a Monday. And I checked. I tried to like something, and they're like, "You are in jail until November 18th, 2019." And I was like, so you mean that I have to wait until the end of this day? So tomorrow I'm out of Instagram jail? Like, what the fuck? So ridiculous. It definitely had a significant impact on like my engagement rates because, those things are important so that people actually see your posts. So I have had to use Instagram stories to promote my podcast and to kind of like keep in touch with people, but it's been very difficult and I cannot wait to get out of that jail. But what it did teach me is that I need to rely more on the platforms that I own. So like my website, I own that. So I had something that I wanted to post last Monday. And when I found out I was in Instagram jail, I just took it and put it on my blog, which is figureoutyourlifeblog.com. And I think I'm going to start doing that more often. Maybe since I know some people don't follow me on that, but I do have other people that do end up coming to my blog that I probably should double post. So it makes it easier for me to, create content on both of them without having to create a lot of content. So that is lesson learned from me, folks, that you really can't rely on these platforms that you don't own. Like my website, I own my domain. As long as I'm paying for it, as long as I keep it up, it's mine. Everything on there is mine. And I'd seen that from other like social social media influencers who talk about like, the importance of having a website for whatever. So for your podcast, for your, if you're a fashion or a travel influencer or whatever, makeup influencer, it's important to have your own platforms, because these other platforms that you don't own, like Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube, like they could snatch your shit down without any explanation. And for some people who are actually, relying on these platforms to promote their brands and their businesses, it could be very detrimental financially. I mean, for me, I'm not making any money off this thing yet, but like I am trying to grow. Like the more followers I have, the more followers I have, the more people find my page and find my podcast, organically, and I'm able to grow, and I'll be able to eventually, attract big time advertisers. Because I told you, I'm in it to win it. I want to really be up in there with the folks, with my peers, the people that I look up to, like the Reed and, what is the other one that I really like? Oh my gosh, I feel bad for not remembering. I listen to a lot of fucking podcasts, but just to kind of keep in the mix of what's going on. But I want to be up there with like the Rob Has a Podcast, which is like, something I listen to often. Up there with Small Doses with Amanda Seales, which I listen to. Getting Grown podcast, which I listen to in and out, but I feel like we have similar content. So I'm really trying to get up there with them, start doing live shows and all that stuff. But we're less than a year in, and we're growing well. I want to be up there with the Therapy for Black Girls, which I absolutely love. I love how she runs her podcast and her social media presence for the podcast. It's just so amazing. So you get it. I'm trying to put myself in great company among people of color. I think people of color podcast, except for Rob Has a Podcast. He's not a person of color, but he is definitely a good business model for how to grind up in this podcast industry. But anyway, you didn't come here to hear this. You came here for today's topic. So today's topic, where did it come from? Well, this was a plan. This is actually one of the planned topics that I had on my content calendar when I created it for the next 6 months. And I felt like I couldn't ignore it. One, because, for 2 weeks. So for those who don't know and do know, I live at home with my mama in her house. Like I live in her house. I moved. I'll just give you the full story. So let me just go with the title and then go into the full story. So if you don't know or didn't see the title, this episode is figuring out how to live at home as an adult, as a grown-ass adult. Grown-ass adult, which is a very popular topic, with different news stories. Like you just Google it and you'll see tons and tons of articles. And when you look in the show notes for this episode, you'll see that I drew from a lot of different sources because there was so much information. But let's get back to my story. So here is my story. I am originally from Boston. I grew up in a single parent household. I grew up in Dorchester. I lived with my mother for 10 years until she decided to have another child, and out came my brother. So then there was 3 of us. And because my mother was a single mother and worked full time to take care of her 2 children, there was a lot of a responsibility that was on my shoulders as a teenager, which I resented because when you're a teenager, you want to go out, you want to hang out with your friends. And I because my mom was trying to have trying to work, trying to take care of her kids and still have a life for herself. I had what I considered a very ridiculous curfew. And it wasn't like you can't go out past this, but it's more like my mother has someplace to be. And if no one can watch my brother, then you need to watch your brother. So I used to have to always be home by 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 at the latest on weekends. And that really just pissed me off because I wouldn't be able to go out to the movies with my friends. I wouldn't be able to go on dates and all kinds of stuff. It just really restricted my life. And I started to resent my brother. But anyway, all kinds of things. I saw him like my child that I was burdened with. But, that I say all this because once I turned 18 and I knew that I wanted to go to Columbia. Let me just put that out there. I think I said this before. I wanted to go to Columbia University in New York City since I was in the 5th grade. Since I was 10, I started on Saved by the Bell. It's a long whole story. And so I knew I wanted to go, and I got into Columbia, early admission, and so I knew I was going to move to New York, and that was like the best thing ever. Like my parents, especially my mother, just couldn't understand why I didn't want to go to like a local good school. Like, oh, you were invited to apply to Harvard. Why didn't you go there? Like, you could have gone to BU, Boston University, for free, like a full ride, because they had one of those scholarships with my high school where kids in the top 10%, if you apply and you get in, pretty much you can get like a full ride, which, I was in that top 10%. And I was like, I have no interest in being in Boston, mainly because I didn't want to have that responsibility of having to, come home, watch my brother, and like just have my whole social life just completely burdened with having to take care of another human being that I did not birth. But so I went off to New York, and I pretty much was like, I am never fucking coming back to Boston. Like, Boston is not the shit. Boston is boring. Boston is where my parents are, where they're like all up in my business. Not really my dad, but mostly my mom. So I had no intentions of coming back, and I, was in school in New York for 4 years. And then I went to graduate school in New York, where I stayed there for an additional 4 years. And then I moved to Atlanta to do my research for my PhD. And I lived in Atlanta for a year. And then I moved to California, to Santa Barbara, California, for technically a year, 9 months to a year, an academic year. So I was there. And after that, moved to California to work on, again, my PhD dissertation. I didn't have anything else set up. So, and I still needed to finish. So the idea was to come back home temporarily, because I was thinking about like, where else could I go? I could move back to Atlanta, where, the cost of living is lower, but then what would I do? Particularly, why would I just be there? Like, because I don't have any family there, and the few friends I had are in law school, and they're, not going to be there long term. And like, if you move back to some place that you're not from, like that's, like you're trying to put down roots. And if I thought about moving back to New York, and just the cost after moving out of New York, let me tell you this, after moving out of New York, and you see like what life is like outside of New York City and its high cost of living, you just see things differently and don't want to go back. So I know when I left New York, the rent went up like every single fucking year. So the first apartment that I got right after college, we paid $1,500 for a 2-bedroom in the Bronx, right? It was brand new structure. It was cool. It was me and my girl Karen from high school. Hey, girl. And we lived there for a year, and only for the fact that everything else that we had saw when we were looking for an apartment was like super expensive or dirty or disgusting. And, this was like the first apartment that we saw that was clean. It was affordable, and it was clean and new, and it didn't cost that much money. Let's just say that. But it was super fucking far. Like, we lived all the way up in Baychester, in the Bronx. And if you don't know where that is, it is pretty much when you're coming into New York from Massachusetts. So if you're going south, we were at the first exit that you would reach once you hit New York City. So once you have officially come into like New York City boroughs, we were the first exit you'd get off out to get into New York City. That's how far up we fucking were. Okay. Very easy to get out of New York that way. Very easy for my parents to come visit me, because it's like, you don't have to drive into New York. Like, you're just pretty much like, welcome to New York. And then you're in New Rochelle. And then all of a sudden you're at my apartment. But it was so fucking far. It just took forever to get everywhere. Like, my graduate school was in Midtown of Manhattan. And we lived so far up in the Bronx, it took like 2 trains to get there. And it usually would take me like an hour to get home. Hour to school, an hour back home. And that is if the express trains were running. So not even with like delays and stuff, it can take even longer. Like, it's just like a super fucking trek. And the same thing for my roommate, Karen. She worked in Midtown Manhattan also. And, it would take her a long time to get home and back. And, she was working as a paralegal, so she had like really long hours. And so it just did not work out. So we ended up moving to Brooklyn after that. Rent went up significantly, but it was, again, it wasn't a new structure, but it was newly renovated. So everything in there was like, we were the first ones to touch it. It was beautiful brownstone, Brooklyn brownstone. Like if you think of like, Cosby Show, Living Single, like, the idea of like the Brooklyn brownstone, like that was it. We lived in Clinton Hill, which is right next to Bedford-Stuyvesant, or AKA Bed-Stuy, where Biggie and Jay-Z are from. Although I heard that Biggie did live in Clinton Hill because it's like right next door. So really nice brownstones. We lived there, but the landlord was a fucking asshole and really took advantage of the fact that he knew that he had this like really great commodity and would raise the rent every single year. So I stayed in that apartment even after Karen left. So she lived there for a year and then she moved and went to law school, and I stayed there for 3 years. So I had 2 other roommates there, and the rent went up every single year. And I think when I left, it was at 17 something for a 2-bedroom, which pretty much took up all the little money that I had as a graduate student. Which is funny because the other 2 people that lived with me after Karen were also graduate students. So it was like, like a lot of money, and having this asshole landlord that was like constantly there. He would sometimes like just come into our apartments when we weren't there, like doing a lot of stuff, just asshole to the assholeness, which didn't make any sense to me because we were good tenants. Like, I was always a good tenant. I paid my rent on time, even when it like fucking hurt my pockets, even when I had to ask my parents to send me money so I could get some ramen. Okay. Even when I just couldn't even get new clothes and I had to pretty much like, can you buy me some shoes, mommy? Can I get a new bag? Like my Christmas list was like pretty much essentials. Like seeing people like living their lives and I'm just like broke. I mean, epitome of broke graduate student. And, now looking back, I wish I had taken advantage of some of the resources that I know that graduate students can take advantage of that I, for some reason, just did not know, which I'm talking about social welfare services. Like literally as a graduate student, you're eligible for food stamps because you make so little money. Well, food stamps alone would have been just very helpful. I don't know, because food's expensive and then you have rent and it's like all your money. So wish I had taken advantage of that because then I would have had, at least a little bit extra money. But I'm just telling you the story so I can tell you how I got back home. So, so I was there and it was just super expensive. And then when I moved to Atlanta, that was the first time that I knew that you had options. So I went and it was the first time that I had lived alone and I was looking for apartments. And like looking for apartments in Atlanta was just like a kid in Candyland. It's like the kids going into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Like you're just like, oh my gosh, I can take this, I can have this, I can have this, I can have this. I mean, literally walking in and having, compared to New York where they're like, okay, so here's a roach over here, here's some mice droppings, it's a walk up, this is 1,700, and do you want it? Because somebody else is gonna take it. Compared to Atlanta where it's like, so what do you want? And I was like, what do you mean, what do I want? What do you mean, what do I want? They're like, do you want a walk-in closet? Do you want a washer dryer? Do you want a pool? Do you want, a duplex? Do you like a loft? What do you want? And if, of these things that you want, we will actually give you something if you sign with us today. So there was a lot of like lease deals that they would have outside these apartments where it'd be like, get $500 if you sign a lease today, get a free flat screen TV if you sign a lease today, get a free month's rent if you buy, sign a lease today. And so I ended up moving into a complex that was brand spanking new. Do you see it? Do you see a pattern here? Like, I guess I have expensive taste. Expensive taste, but popper pockets. Okay. So I ended up moving into a brand new apartment complex where they pretty much had the offer of a free month's rent. And I actually negotiated that they would, take the free month's rent that they offered for the signing bonus, and to, break it into 12 months and prorate it over like my year's lease. And so I ended up paying less than what the rent was because that free month's rent I used to prorate. So, and I had a washer and dryer in my apartment. I had a nice balcony. Like I was right next to where the pool area was. I was like the first person in that new section of the apartment complex to move in. I had it was just beautiful, like nice space, nice bathroom, all that, large room. And, from that, I just learned that there was so much life outside of New York City and so much more affordable outside of New York City. And then I moved to California and I lived in, faculty, student housing or family housing for UC Santa Barbara. And it was different. It definitely was not new. It was like, pre-war, no AC, no pool. Like, it just was like, just old, and which was fine. I was in California. I had a little balcony, but there was like too many bugs for me. I was like, I swear, like I had an ant infestation every single month, and like the fumigator was there like all the time. Like I didn't even know that ants like to hang out near people's showers. Like that's what I learned from living in California, that ants, you won't find them in your kitchen if you ain't got food, in there, but you'll find them up in your fucking shower while you showering, walking up and down the damn fucking wall while you showering. So that was a bit different, but I still was someplace. I mean, the cost of living in Santa Barbara is super fucking high, but I didn't even live in Santa Barbara, and the school itself, although called UC Santa Barbara, is actually in Goleta, California, which is right next to Santa Barbara, like right next. And that's like where the school is like located. That's where like all the dorms and student faculty housing is. It's a little bit, lower cost of living, but there's like literally nothing there. But so after I left California, but I should mention the amenities. So even with the old stuff, I didn't have a washer and dryer in my complex, in my apartment, but there was one in the complex. So I didn't have to go to the laundromat. We were right near the beach, right? Like every morning I would go for a walk, along the beach, like take a nice little morning hike. It was just beautiful. So that's what it made up for. So like all these things together just made it so much better than New York. So that's why I decided not to go back to New York. Like just thinking about having to find another apartment in New York just gave me anxiety. I was having anxiety attacks thinking about like having to go through that again. So I was like, you know what, let me just move back home where I can, save some money and get my stuff done. It'll be very temporary. I don't even know if I had a time period in mind, but I feel like it was probably a year, because again, I had no intentions of moving back home. No intentions. And not because I think I'm against people like moving back home as adults, but mostly because I told you what I left when I was in high school. Oh my gosh, I just did not want the responsibilities. But by the time I came back, so I came back to Boston in 2011. It was July of 2011. And by then, let's see, 2011 is 8 years ago, which would make me, damn, I'm really bad at math. So I'm 36 now. Minus 8, which would make me 28. So by the time I came back, my brother was 18. So there was no watching of a baby. So I was like, okay, I don't have to be watching him. He's like, he's a full-on teenager. He's an adult. So I don't have to deal with that. So that was different. Two things were different because I told you I grew up in the city in Dorchester. I lived in a two family house. And by the time I moved back home, it wasn't even the home that I grew up in. My mother had moved out of Boston and moved into the suburbs of Boston and bought a house. So, it was no longer, being in a place where she didn't own it. It wasn't the place that I grew up in. I mean, literally my first memories were from that apartment. I still have dreams about that apartment. And I wasn't moving back there. I moved, someplace new, new space, completely different. So that made a difference too. But then also living in the suburbs, I didn't have a car. So that kind of made things even more like, okay, what the fuck am I going to do? I'm like, all my friends live in Boston, and, I don't have a car. And so how am I going to get to things? I have to borrow my mom's car. Like I have to take the freaking commuter rail, which does not run. Like if you're like commuter trains, like especially where I live, it only runs Monday through Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, you are fucked. And this is before, Lyft and Uber, like a little bit before they were popular in nationwide. So, all these things, I was just like, okay, I need to get stuff done. I need to get the fuck out of here. And what am I talking about? I didn't have a car. What the fuck am I talking about? I didn't have a car. I have lost my mind. Of course I had a car. I had a car in Atlanta and in California. How the fuck would I have been getting around? Those are two places that you need cars to get around. So what the hell was I talking about? I had a car. I had a car. I shipped my car from California back to Massachusetts. And if you want an episode about moving across country, I can definitely do one of those and give you tips on that, because it is very, very expensive. It can be. And also, like, there's a lot of things you have to think about, but I did ship my car. I just think I didn't have it for the first few weeks. So that's what I'm thinking of. But I had a car, which was good because it allowed me to escape. What the fuck am I talking about? Like, I wasn't stuck in the damn suburbs. I was not stuck in the suburbs. So I moved home and I was trying to finish my stuff, and I was like, okay, I really don't want to be here. Like, it's just a lot of adjustments. Like, I have a teenage brother that grew up while I was gone, and, a new house. And also the fact that knowing that I was moving back home and having to figure out how to live at home with my mother as an adult who's lived on their own. So I say all this to let you know that I have left the nest. Like, I've left the nest, I've lived on my own, I paid my own rent, and then I came back. So that is my story about how I came to live back at home. The story of why I'm still fucking here is something else, and goes into this whole like phenomenon that is happening, this trend of a lot of millennials or young adults, after college, moving back home, and why this is happening, and, where is this coming from? So this is where I go into the research. So you are all caught up on me, and let's get into the facts of how I'm still here and how I'm a part of this trend of adults living at home or staying at home longer, living with their parents, and why they're doing so. So from the research that I gathered, I found that more than 1 in 5 adults, or 22% of millennial Americans, so these are people that are ages 23 to 37, are either staying home. So I didn't do that. I didn't stay home. I left. Or returning to their childhood bedrooms, which I also did not, because I did not come back to the house that I grew up in. So let's just change that. 1 in 5 adults, those specifically millennials, so about 22%. I've seen numbers that say about 30 something percent. So more than 22% of millennial Americans, ages 23 to 37, are living at home with their parents. And this is compared to 11.7% of the same people of the same age back in 2001. So 2001, that is when I left home. That is when I went off to college. And so when I went off to college and said I was never fucking coming back, it was not a common trend that, adults, young adults, just adults in general, or people of my generation, were moving back home. It was not. I mean, it was only at 11.7%. So that is a significant jump within 20 years, like 2 decades, to like double in size. And in a recent study by Abodo, Abodo. Okay, I don't know where I got this from. Noted that for the first time in more than 130 years, millennials are more likely to be living with their parents in any other type of living situation. And so I already told you about my different living situations. I had roommates for the 4 years that I lived in New York City on my own. And then when I moved out of New York City, I lived on my own. I was able to live alone, and then I moved back home. And it seems like the trend now is that people aren't like, getting tons of roommates and trying to make it work. It seems like more that the millennials, people of my generation, are moving home instead of, trying to do like the 1 roommate, 2 roommate, 3 roommate, 4 roommate. I mean, like, it can go, especially in New York City, people had like tons of roommates living in like a 1-bedroom apartment. And so this seems to be more of the trend. They said in 2006, 29% of Americans aged 18 to 34 lived at their parents' homes. In 2017, this share increased to 34.6%. So you can see there's like lots of different numbers here, but pretty much what you should get from this, because some of the articles I got came from 2017, and you'll see later on as I go on, there are some that are from 2019, but mostly what you're getting is that is 1 in 5, which is you put up your fingers. And the first finger that you get to, so on my hand, it's my thumb, The thumb lives at home and the rest of the four fingers live out in the world. They either have a mortgage, they either have roommates, but they definitely aren't living home with their parents. But that is still on the same hand, one hand. 1 in 5 is very, it's common now, more than 1 in 5, and it seems to be growing. And so where is this coming from? Experts are saying that unaffordable housing market is keeping millennials at home. I can tell you that for damn sure. I told you I could have moved back to New York, but the thought of having to pay all that rent and possibly having to find another roommate, oh gosh, no. I just couldn't do it. I just could not go back to all of my money going to rent to live in either something really, really fucking nice and very expensive, or to live in something shitty but less expensive but still expensive. And it's not even any better in Boston, because Boston is the fourth, like as of this year, is the fourth most expensive city to live in the United States, above New York City. So wasn't finding an apartment here. So, but yeah, they're pointing to the unaffordable housing market as one of the main reasons why millennials are living at home. It is not what some of these older articles that I saw, more like from the 2014, 2016, 13, like when it was starting to kind of grow, where they were kind of calling it the boomerang generation, like they're boomeranging home. They left the house and now they're coming back, and because they have failed at adulting and can't find, or want to live at home and live off their parents. That is not what it is. This is not about being a failure to adult. This is not the cause of people moving back home, which if you talk to my mom, I swear to God, she goes up and down. She knows all the degrees I have. She knows all the work stuff that I've gone through. She knows that I apply for jobs and all my circumstances, and still sometimes acts like I'm living at home because I have failed to adult. And it's like, lady, I am not failing at adulting. If I was, you'd be paying all of these bills, including my 6 figures of student loan debt, which you're not. I'm not in default. Ain't nobody calling you talking about where's Latoya Chantel Tavernier because she owes us money and we looking for her so we can get this money and we're going to take it from you because you are on her contacts list. That's not happening. That is not happening at all. And it's not because of a failure to adult. And the failure to adult is being that you can't hold your jobs. You can't hold a job. You can't launch a career. You haven't done anything. You're just living at home being a bum, which I am not. And I don't know if my mom listens to us. I hope she doesn't listen to my podcast because I say a lot of shit. It would make her upset. I don't want to start a fight over it. It happens. But I'm not a bum. She knows I'm not a bum. I'm not a bum. We're not talking about the Huxtable kids here. Like, that was the first thing I thought. Like, I'm thinking that she's thinking of me, like the Huxtable kids. Like, I am going to bring up the Cosby Show. So if you remember the Cosby Show, and if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you're somewhere between the ages of 25 and 45. So you are aware of the Cosby Show, or you watched it when it was on TV, or you watched it in syndication or reruns. Although I don't know if they played as much since the whole Bill Cosby, sexual assault scandal and arrest and stuff like that. But in the Cosby Show, it was a quite common topic. Like, it was like a running storyline that all of the Huxtable kids pretty much all eventually end up moving home. Every single one of them. Even though Sandra was like the oldest and went off to law school, got married, she even moved back for like a hot second with her twins. That Denise was like, definitely when she went off to college, to Hillman College, and then she left. Then she went off did she go to Africa? Is that what she went to? And she met her Marine husband. Or was he in the Air Force? Well, she met her husband that was in the armed services. I'm sorry if I can't remember which branch she was in. And they moved back, and she came back with Olivia, her stepdaughter, and they lived in the house. And it was in and out of her living in the house. And we know that the rest of the kids, they were still underage. But even as they grew older, Theo ended up moving back home. Vanessa ended up moving back home, and Rudy was the last one to leave, but then again, she was the baby. And the series pretty much ended with her graduation from college and going off to college. And I think that was when they fully had an empty nest. So like, they ended with them finally getting all the kids out of the house. But it was like this long running gag storyline of like, oh my gosh, the kids keep moving back home. Oh my goodness. Like, what have we done? What have we done to deserve to be punished with our kids continuously coming back. Like, we're a doctor and a lawyer, and we have this beautiful, expensive brownstone, and we're very successful, but somehow our kids seem to be failures that continue to come back. This is not the story. This is not it. I mean, it was the precursor to the story, but it's not the story, because they never talked about the fact that they moved back home because it was super expensive to find housing, or that they were saving money. I think Sandra and her husband were saving money to buy a house, but I haven't watched the show in a long time. But there was never really that full discussion of like, the reason why we moved home is because of real, financial and adult reasons. That we're not just coming back because like we just don't feel like having to deal with the adult world. Like, we're moving back because we can't afford to buy a house right now, even with, having degrees and a career. And so we're not talking about the Huxtable kids here. This is not what's happening. Millennials are struggling to afford homes even as the economy recovers. So even after the recession that happened and the economy has recovered, and, people are getting out of financial ruin and getting jobs again, it is still hard to afford a home. And part of that also is the fact that student loan debt has risen significantly. Along with the fact that housing costs have skyrocketed. So after the housing market crashed, and you had all these like subprime lender loans, subprime loans, and people losing their houses and having the banks giving them homes that they couldn't really afford and then snatching them back, and people having to go into bankruptcy and all that other stuff. Since then, the housing market has recovered and the cost of housing has gone up and wages have not. So you have these three things that are really at the root of this issue of why so many adults, or millennial adults, are moving back home, and probably for the generation after the millennials, which I don't remember what they're called. I don't know if they're Generation Z or Y or what the fuck. I'm just going to call them Generation what the fuck. But they might be in the same predicament too if we don't deal with these issues of rising housing costs, rising student loan debt, and stagnation of wages. So those are the three major things. If you're talking about student loan debt, and I've told y'all about mine, I got 6 motherfucking figures of student loan debt. I have a damn motherfucking mortgage. And for those who listen to the episode, one of the earlier episodes about figuring out how to save money and get out of debt or deal with debt, I forgot what it's called. I think it was about figuring out savings and debt, something like that. But I don't have credit card debt anymore because I use the time that I'm here. I'll get into the advantages of living at home, but I'm not even worried about my undergrad loans. My Columbia University, Columbia College psychology degree is paid for. It is paid for. It is paid off. I own that shit. When I move out, I am taking my fucking diploma with me because my mama no longer owns it because I paid for that shit. But what I'm paying for still is this damn fucking graduate degree that I have, which has put me into 6 figures of student loan debt. And most of that came from the fact that I lived in motherfucking New York, motherfucking city. And most of my money went to my housing and trying to feed me. And like, it wasn't even for tuition and books. It was just for feeding me and housing me. Like, I wasn't even fucking stunting on people. I wasn't walking around in fucking, Gucci loafers and, had my hair done like tight no. I wasn't traveling nowhere unless my mama was paying for it or the graduate school was paying for it. So I was only going on conference trips and annual trips with my family because a bitch was poor. Still poor, but not as poor as I was when I was a graduate student living in New York City. But most college graduates finish school with debt averaging over $28,000. Now, I didn't leave with $28,000 in college debt when I graduated from college. But again, I told you my debt came from graduate school. Which is what a lot of people are dealing with because, we're living in a world where you need more than just a bachelor's degree to get a well-paying job in this economy. You need to have like a second degree, a higher degree, and that comes with money. That comes with a cost. Many states in which young people live with their parents, according to this the research, live with their parents. Okay, so let me say that again. Many states in which many young people live with their parents also rank highly among the states where students graduate with the most debt. So you find that there is a correlation between those who have high student loan debts and those who live at home. So if you find a state where they have a lot of people with loans over $28,000, student loan debts over $28,000, they probably live at home. There's a high rate of them living at home. It's also why 75% of early adults are defining success as financial independence from their parents. So I have completely, since this whole experience, have done the same thing. I didn't even think about that I have redefined what success is to me. I have redefined what, successful adulting looks for me. And that is like, I may live at home with my mama, but she ain't paying none of these bills. As much as she want to talk about, like, when am I going to get out of here? I can't wait. Well, these kids won't leave this house. Like, why are you still here? Oh my gosh, I can't wait till you move out and get out of here. And it's like, okay, lady. It's like, oh, you live in my house? Yeah, I live in your house, but you don't pay none of my bills. Like I said again, you don't pay none of these bills. And if you want to play this role of, full-on provider, and I'm back in high school and I'm, a minor again, then you can take all these bills, hon. And even then, like, you weren't like, once I got a cell phone and all that stuff, once I was able to start working, I was responsible to, make money to buy my school clothes and to pay for my cell phone. Even though she bought the cell phone, I had to pay the bill. So I, gained responsibility early. So it's like, lady, we stopped playing this game when I was 15. So I don't know what the fuck you talking about. We stopped playing this game at 15. You haven't been fully responsible for me financially in a long ass time. Maybe you have a higher burden of financial burden, but you ain't paying it. You haven't been paying everything since I was 15. So let's just be clear on that one. I'm not my brother. That's another story. But yeah, pretty much, like, I just even think of that. 75% of early adults, like millennials, are now seeing shit. I hope you didn't hear that. It was my computer, sorry. And that was a reminder to pay my student loan. My federal student loan is due tomorrow. Thank you, calendar. Although all my bills are on automatic pay, so I don't even have to worry about that. They get paid. That's why I say nobody's looking for me. She shouldn't be talking about, it's like, you ain't got nobody looking for you because my shit gets paid. I don't have to think about it. But defining success as financial independence from their parents, as opposed to building wealth and accruing assets for themselves. So seeing financial independence as more important right now, as something that is tangible that you can hold on to. Like, okay, I live at home, but I'm paying all my own bills. I'm able to save some money, as opposed to like, oh, look at me, I'm like investing in stocks, I'm building wealth, I'm buying a house, I'm, accruing different assets. There's been a whole shift in how young people, how millennial adults are now defining wealth, which is very interesting, which is very much tied to these social issues that are happening. These three things that I mentioned before: the rising cost of housing, the rising student loan debt, and the stagnation of wages have led to a complete shift, like a big shift in how millennial adults and those who are coming after are defining success. So living at home, let's start talking about the perks here. Living at home, according to them, living at home also comes with some perks. Hell yeah, it fucking does. Okay. People think it's funny when I come up with this line, but like, a bitch got fucking good ass fucking credit. Okay. This is some of the perks that comes from living at home. You get to save money. Okay. Money, and focus on long-term goals, such as saving a down payment on a home so you can afford to get the fuck out your mama and your daddy's house. And they found from one of the articles I saw, one of the articles that I was reading, they said that that those who stay at home, those who are millennials who are staying at home, can afford to move out or buy a home nearly 3 years sooner than their contemporaries who are not living at home. So they're looking at the fact that if you were, living on your own, having roommates and trying to save money, as opposed to living at home with your parents and saving money on not having to pay for your rent or housing, you are more likely, they're able to save money nearly 3 years sooner, like able to save enough money for a down payment 3 years sooner than those who live on their own. So that is a perk. Definitely, trust me, you will save money. That is a perk that I will tell you. That's what I tell people. I was like, yeah, I live at home. Like, where do you live? I live at home with my mom. I live in my mama's house. I just tell my students out all the time. They're laughing. I was like, this is a reality that y'all gonna have to deal with. Okay, I got 6 figures of student loan debt, but let me tell you what I do have. A bitch got good, great excellent credit. Okay. It went from good, great to excellent. Okay. Good, great, excellent. Bitch is on the top tier. Okay. Top tier of credit. So when I'm getting a car loan, when I need to go get a car loan, when I need to get a home loan, I don't have to worry about them checking that credit, because that credit is going to be great, especially since the fact that I check my credit every fucking week. Okay. Like religiously, I check that shit because I want to make sure that this whole living at home with my mama and having to deal with her trying to mama me that I am 36 fucking years old, that I have something to hold on to. Like, yeah, you want to make jokes, ha ha ha, but a bitch got good credit. I probably got better credit than you do, which I'm not going to say too loud because then she's going to be like, get the fuck out of here. You should be paying me money. But I got great credit. Bitch is in the 800 club, okay? We up there. I have pretty much no credit card debt. Like, I don't carry credit card debt. Everything is manageable. If I buy something, I pay it off within the same month. Like, it's done. I had to buy a new cell phone last year, paid it off like within 2 weeks. After I paid off all my all my credit card loans, all my credit card debt, I cannot see that balance. I check that shit all the time. I paid off. You know, if you get like $20, I just put the $20 on there. Just pay it until it's gone. Okay. Always pay before the month is up, and I always pay in full if I can, unless it's like a huge purchase, and then I will break it up into pieces and pay that bitch. Even now, as someone who is not currently working, who is unemployed and looking for a new job, I'm still able to. I am not racking up credit card debt. Okay. A bitch is unemployed and doesn't have huge credit card debt. I know right now probably I'm utilizing about maybe less than 2% of my available credit. That's how you have a high credit score. You got to have that utilization underneath 30, but if you can get it underneath 10, 5, you're in a good place. I was also able to pay off my undergrad loans, so I don't owe Columbia University and the people that helped me to go to Columbia University nothing. Okay, I paid that shit off. It is done. I did it this year. It is done. You know what else I paid off? I paid off my damn car loan. I paid it off early, a couple months early, but it's gone. Okay. Are you seeing are you seeing the bills that are going down? Are you seeing the debt that is going down? A bitch ain't got a car loan. A bitch ain't got no undergrad student loans. And a bitch ain't got credit card debt, like serious credit card debt. None of that shit. And I have excellent credit. And I got money in the bank. Shorty, what you drank? Okay. Shorty, what you drank? A lot of that came from having the time to sit down and actually learn different financial literacy tools, and which has been very helpful. So I've said it in the episode about savings that I have several different bank accounts, which is key. I have one that is strictly for bills, so that's why I never worry. Like I told you that my alarm went off on my computer telling me that my federal student loan is due tomorrow, and I don't it doesn't mean anything to me. I don't even know why I still have the alarm on there. Especially since I don't have to go in and go pay it. It gets paid. It gets pulled out automatically from my bills account. Everything gets pulled out of the bills account. I have a can't touch it, hard to get money out of savings account. I have an investment account that I need to shift to something else because they're trying to charge me money for that service. And I was like, I don't want to pay money for that service. And I have like a fund account, and I have like another savings account. So okay, Toy wants to go to Tulum. Toy's going to pay for Tulum with this fund savings account. Like, what the fuck are you saving money for if it's not to live? Because you can't take that money with you. Okay. So I got the money that is there. Okay, I got to pay this. It came out of nowhere. I got to get it, I got to completely fix my whole car so I can get someplace. And then I have money for, I want to travel. And I have money for that's a cute shirt. Let me go buy that. That's cute. And I got money for pay them bills, girl, because you got bills still. So that is a major perk, from living at home. And, as soon as I get me a steady job, that's pretty much my, I think within a year I'll be able to move out of my mama's house, because I already have enough money for us, for a regular FHA loan, first time homeowners, for home buyer loan. So I have enough money to put stuff down and not be crazy. I just need to have a steady stream of incomes. So that's what we're waiting on to move the fuck out of here. But trust me, we're accumulating stuff. I have utensils and stuff. I have everything here. I just need to buy furniture and I'll be good. But let me continue going. So among the metro areas with the largest share of millennials living at home, which if you want to know the places, here is the top 4. Los Angeles, and this is not in order. So Los Angeles, Miami, New York City, and Riverside, California are the metro areas with the largest share of millennials living at home. That at least 31% of millennials live with their parents in those metro cities. So at least 31%. If you go into these major cities, Los Angeles, Miami, New York City, and Riverside, at least 31%. 31% of people ages 23 to 37 are living at home with their mama and their daddy, or their mama or their daddy, or whoever raised them. All of which are among the least affordable renting markets in the country. So that is how it's all tied in again. These are places where you just can't even afford to live on your own unless you want to live with 15 other people, unless you want to live in a sorority house or a frat house. And not even have enough rooms for everybody, like in a 2-bedroom apartment with 16 other girls. The option is to move home. And let me just put a side note on this. I found interesting in this story is that here's the side note. So I don't know why everybody's trying to call me while I'm trying to record. So where is my side note? Damn, I'm looking at my notes and I can't even find my damn side note. What I was gonna say is that men in the same age group, so millennial men, are more likely to live with their parents, which I don't think people are surprised, because like the whole image of like the adult man that lives at home has been very prevalent for a long time. Like, except they're usually like living in the basement, sleeping on the couch, like, eating, chips and smoking weed and playing video games. But that is not actually what they are now. There are still some of those, but then there's also still those who are working a 9 to 5 and having to live at home with mom and dad, maybe not in the basement, because they're trying to save money to buy a damn home or to pay off their student loans. So just wanted to point that out there, that men are more likely to live at home with their parents, millennial men. So here's more examples. So for example, when looking at Los Angeles, more than 3 out of 10 millennials live at home with their parents. In Los Angeles, the median rent prices eat up over 40% of people's median income. So like the average, most common rent prices would take up 45% of what most average millennials actually make. 45 fucking percent would be going to your rent. Isn't that fucking crazy? Now let's get closer to home for me. In Boston, it is just over 1/3 of millennials still live at home. They're currently ranked at 21st highest percentage in the country at 35%. Like that's the ranking currently. And I got that number from 2017. So let's just put that out there. Or is this the new one? No, I think before it was at 12% and now it's at 21%. So there's other places that have gone ahead Boston, but Boston still has a high average. So over 1/3 of millennials still live at home. So I'm not alone in the city of Boston. I met somebody else that went to high school with me, and she was like, "Yeah, I live at home with my mom." I was like, "Girl, you talking to the choir. You already know that." Hey, Rosalie, girl, I know you listening. Hey. And so in Boston, those millennials living at home would be spending 93% of their income on rent if they were to go own their own place. Now, right now, I have 93% of no check coming in. Don't worry about my pockets. I got money. But as I said, when I was working, 95, if I decided to move out, my mama keep telling me, I was like, yeah, I can move out. You think I can't move out? But then all my money, it's what I was telling my students, and they laugh. I was like, you know what? I need to live at home because I need to pay off these bills, and I still want to look cute. This is how you look cute and be able to travel, okay? You have to live at home because 93% of my income is definitely not going to somebody else's pocket, where it's not going to do anything for me when I leave. Nothing. 93% of my money? 93%? 93? Pfft. and I don't own this bitch, and I won't be able to look cute and fucking go travel, hell fucking no. That's why I live at home with my mama. So here's some more in-depth numbers for you. So here's the facts and the stats. Say it, facts and the stats. Facts and the stats. So I took, of course, I'm looking at 4 states with high numbers, and I'm looking at their rankings. This is from 2019. All the information from where I'm getting this stuff, it will be in the show notes. So Massachusetts is currently number 14 for states with high numbers of millennials living at home. And Massachusetts in 2017. So they took the numbers from the 2017 census. So Massachusetts with adults 18 to 34 living at home with their parents in 2017, it was 36.1%. In 2006, for the same age group, it was 33.4%, which was the fifth highest number at that point. The cost of living in Massachusetts is about 7.9% higher than the average. And then when looking at some of the, kind of the reasons why people move out and are able to move out, the median age at first marriage is 30.6%, which is the highest. So we have a very, people are getting married older in the state of Massachusetts, which makes me not feel so bad about myself. But again, I'm not basing my success and happiness based on the fact I'm married or not married. I just like some constant dick. I'm joking, but not joking. All right. And they said that the annual unemployment rate is 2.9%. So it's the ninth lowest, and it's tied with another state. When looking at Boston in particular, so I looked at Boston in particular, millennials who live at home with their parents currently in 2000. So this one is another study that I just put them together. So I had rates of the states, 50 states, and where they rank among the percentage of millennials living at home. And then I also looked at the top metro cities that have millennials living at home. So for Boston itself, not just the state of Massachusetts, but Boston itself, it's 17.9%. The unemployment rate is 6.3%. And the percentage of those who are unemployed and not seeking work, which is not me, is 14.4%. So there is a 14.4% who are your typical basement bums. So that it's not that bad. For California, which is also the home to Riverside, California, which is the top place with the highest. Okay, where is all my information? Did this not get updated? Yes, it did. I just don't know. Oh, okay, I'm looking at this weird. So for California, which has Los Angeles and Riverside, which are part of the top places where millennials live at home with their parents. In California state, millennials living with their parents in 2017 is at 39.3%. In 2006, it was at 31.1%, which was the 12th highest. The cost of living in California is 14.8% higher than average. So if you're comparing it to Massachusetts, which is 7.9% higher than average, you can see significantly why there's more people in California living at home with their mama and their daddy, because come on. It's fucking expensive. The median age of first marriage is 30. So it's the 4th highest. Not the highest like Massachusetts. And the annual unemployment rate is 4.3%, which is the 9th highest and is tied with another state. When looking at, I think this is Los Angeles. Yes. So looking at Los Angeles, 26.6% of them live at home with their parents. 6.9% are unemployed. That's the unemployment rate. And for millennials, and those who are basement bums who are unemployed and not seeking work is at 16.2%, which is again higher than Massachusetts. There you go. Florida, higher than Boston. Sorry. So for Florida, which has Miami, which is among the places with high, millennials living at home. In 2017, their numbers were at 39.8%. In 2006, it was at 27.8%, which was the 25th highest percentage of millennials living with their parents. The cost of living. So this is where it's like, what? How does this make sense? But this is Florida state, not Miami, but Florida, the whole state, which most people only think of the good places when they think of Florida. At least I only do, like Orlando, Tampa, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, not Bumblefuck, Florida. I don't know if that's even real. Probably is. So 0.1% lower than average. So the cost of living is actually lower than the national average. Yet you have 39.8% of the millennials still living at home in 2017. I don't know what's going on there. For first age of marriage, it's at 29.8%, so it's the ninth highest. And then for unemployment rate, annual unemployment rate, they're at 3.4%, which is the 19th lowest. So they have low unemployment rates. They get married a little bit earlier than California and Massachusetts. They have a cost of living that is way under the average, like a little bit under the average, but definitely significantly lower than California and Massachusetts. But yet they have a higher percentage of millennials living at home with their parents than the state of Massachusetts and California. So, okay. For Miami itself, you have 27.7% that live with their parents. The unemployment rate is 8.4%. So the unemployment rate is definitely, it's higher than in Miami than it is for the state of Florida. And those who are basement bums are at 18.1%. So we have more basement bums living in Miami than we do in Los Angeles or Boston. But yet they have a lower average cost of living. Someone got to explain that shit to me. I don't know what people trying to do up in Miami. I know Miami itself is expensive, but come on, like your cost of living is super low. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if people staying at home to stunt or what, but maybe they're dealing with the same things that everybody else is dealing with. I guess that's what the study is trying to point out. Okay, last state, New York. So, damn, this is getting long, but I hope you guys are getting something from it. So New York itself is, for millennials living at home in 2017, 40.3%. And I can tell you why, because that rent is motherfucking high. And that cost of living is motherfucking high, okay? And this is New York State. In 2006, the number was at 36.7%. So there was like a 4% rise. It was the second highest state of millennials living at home in 2006, which, wow, I'm not surprised again. Cost of living in New York State, 15.8% higher than average. 15.8% higher than the national average, which puts them like 1% over California and like about 8% higher than Massachusetts. Again, I know because I lived in New York State. I lived in New York State. I lived in California State, and I lived in Massachusetts. All places near and dear to me. Florida, let me not say it before I end up living there. Never say never. That's what they say. So let's look at New York City itself. So, unemployment rate. Also, what marriage unemployment rate? I didn't say that. So the median age at first marriage is 30.5% in New York State. So that's the second highest. And their annual unemployment rate is at 33.9%, which is the 16th highest, and is tied with another state. When looking at New York City itself, the percentage of millennials who live with their parents is 24.7%, which is lower than those who live in Miami. And it's lower than those who live in Los Angeles. And it's, of course, higher than those who live in Boston. The percentage that is unemployed of millennials is 7%. So people are working. They have a lower unemployment rate than Florida, a little bit higher than California, and higher than Massachusetts, but people are still working. And the percentage of basement bums, which really, most people don't have basements in New York City unless they have a house, and if you're renting. So those who are living on the couch bums, it's so they're unemployed and not looking. It's at 15.3%. So people are looking for work. They're looking for work. They, definitely more than Miami. I don't know what the fuck's going on in Miami. Someone got to explain that shit to me. Now, conversely, millennials are least likely to live with their parents in cities like Seattle, Austin, Portland, Kansas City, and Denver, which is surprising to me because Seattle has a high, their cost of living is very high and their housing rates are really high, which is, I wonder what's going on there. I don't know if people are just not living in, millennials are just not living in Seattle. Maybe it's the type of jobs there, but, you're least likely to find people living at home with their parents in Seattle, Austin, Portland, Kansas City, and Denver. So if you are a millennial and you're trying to not live at home with your parents, you might want to move to these places. I'm not saying your life's going to be better, but just for the facts for you. So let's get to tips. This is where I'm going to give you guys some tips of living at home with your parents. So I gathered, like, there's 3 different lists here. One is from a white man. Literally it was like from Business Insider, and like the way it read, it was definitely a man. And as I was reading it, I was like, you're definitely a white man. And there's another one that I got that was definitely by a girl and definitely by a white girl, the way it was written. And the last one is, of course, from your girl Tell Your T. So we're going to get a black woman PhD's list on how to live at home with your parents. So I'm going to help you out. If you are thinking of moving back home, or you live at home, or you're about to live back at home, here are some tips. I'm giving you a whole bunch. So here we go. So here's the white man's list. And his list is called 8 tips for living with your parents at 30. I was like, thank you for the actual designation of the age, not at your 20s, but at your 30s, because that's different. So number 1, he said, remind yourself that this is normal. And I already just gave you all the facts and the stats. So this is normal. This is not uncommon. This is 1 in 5 millennial Americans are living at home with their parents. So this is normal. And also, if you're thinking about it in terms of culturally, like Americans' viewpoints, even though America is like a melting pot, there's like a lot of the American ideal of like success and independence is very different from other cultures and countries. And so it is not uncommon for adults in other places and other cultures to live at home with their families until they get married. Like it's like quite common, it's quite common for people to just live with their parents until you get married. Like it's just expected, especially for females, but just in general, that you stay home until you get married, and then you move out once you get married and start your own family. In some cultures, it's even customary just to continue to live with the family when you get married. So you just like add on to the house. I know this is quite common in like Middle Eastern families, like Indian families. Like you just kind of just keep building on the house, and you just kind of move into your own kind of section of the home with your family, and you just continue to expand. And it also helps with like when parents are getting older, like it's common for them to live in the house. Like it is not uncommon culturally, and even now for Americans it's not uncommon because of the 3 reasons I gave you for adults, people in their 30s, to be living at home with their parents. So number 2, he suggests that you make money. So don't sit around and do nothing. Like you need to make some money. You need to have a job. You can't be a basement bum. You can't be the couch surfer. You can't be a bum. Make money. You have an opportunity to not have to pay rent, which is a blessing. So use it to make money. Make money. Number 3, he said buy some groceries, which even though this is the white man's list, I definitely agree with him on that. And that's something that I should probably practice more, because like my mother constantly tells me like, yo, is that your yogurt? And I'm like, no, but it was in the fridge. It's like, is that your, I'm like, no, but it was in the fridge. I'll be eating all this lady's food. I'll be eating her cookies, all that stuff. I'll be feeling bad sometimes. She's like, the grocery store is like right down the street. Like you can go to the grocery store. It's not far. And she's right. I do need to spend more time buying groceries. And like, I'm also supposed to be cooking as like a part of my rent, but like I get around that sometimes. Especially if like, I'm like, oh, I'm on a diet, so I can't really cook the food that you can eat too. That's how I get around it. But she, earlier this, like in the summer, like towards the end, she was like, I'm fucking tired of this shit. I can't be coming back and there's no cooking. You need to cook. So, you definitely need to buy some groceries and at least cook, for your parents, if you live at home, just cause you're an extra mouth that they have to feed. And it's not like, again, this is not like high school when you were a minor where they pretty much were obligated legally to feed you. As an adult, they're not legally obligated to feed you. And so, you don't want to get to a point where people start writing their names on stuff. Like, it's not like that in my house, but there's like, there's definitely things that are particularly for people, especially if you buy it. So for when I buy things, I don't want nobody eating it. But if she buys it, I'm like, it's mine, but it's not really mine. So I need to be a little bit more, I need to be a little bit more understanding and about that. So number 4, he said, keep your living space tidy. Pretty much clean your room. Now, I don't know, like it depends on what kind of space that your parents are giving you. If you're living in the basement, that's your space. And if no one comes in there, like, keep it clean, but just don't be dirty that, you have like roaches and rats and are affecting other people's like house, like the rest of the house. For me in particular, I have a room and it is my room and I do with it what I want. And I don't necessarily like to clean. Like I'm not like the dusting, sweeping kind of person, like wiping shit down. Like I do it when I need to do it. But I definitely have a thing about like tidiness and things being organized. And so, which is very different than how my mother has her space. Like if you see our rooms, they're like night and day. And I don't know how that lady can live with her clutter. But she lives with it and she knows where her things are and she doesn't really like me to touch her clutter. And even when I do touch it, she get mad because she think I throw out something or move something and it's like whatever. So I keep my tidiness and super like organized frenzy sometimes to my room, but for other common spaces, I fucking organize the shit out of that. So you should also probably try to tidy up other living spaces that you use. If you're in the kitchen, tidy that shit up. If you're, using the bathroom, tidy that shit up. If you're using the living area, tidy that shit up. But particularly your room, like, keep it tidy, but it's not like you shouldn't be feeling obligated like it's like high school or you're a kid again and you're going to get, punished or not get your allowance for not making your, making your bed. Like, just keep that shit clean and don't invite any vermin into the house because of your uncleanliness. Number 5. So this is why I knew this list was by a white man, just man in general. His tip was number 5 was to eat dinner with your parents. Like, why aren't you fucking eating dinner with them? Like, they're there, you live in the same house. Like, you should eat with them. But for me, I have a question mark there because, like, the way that my household was since I was a kid was that we didn't eat at a table. We ate in our rooms. And so that just continues unless, it happens to be like Thanksgiving or something like that. Then you're eating at the table. Or if you have guests, like we'll eat in the kitchen table. But you don't have to eat dinner with them, but you should actually but don't act like you don't live in the house with them. But, like, spend some time with your parents. Number 6, he said, get out regularly. Like, what? Hello? Like, yes, you should leave the house. You should be leaving the house. Like, damn, you should be leaving the house. This is why I knew it was a man that came up. The white man came up with this. Like, who is this staying in the house? Like, this is definitely a man's list. Get out regularly. Me particularly, I like being at home. And a lot of that came from the fact that 1, I'm a homebody. 2, because I told you about the whole circumstances of me having to watch my brother when I was a teenager. And so I just kind of got used to just being in home. Plus 3, I was, when I wasn't watching my brother and when I was being a rebellious teen, I got into a lot of trouble and I was constantly put on punishment, which meant that I just couldn't go anywhere and it didn't really fucking matter to me because I like to read and watch TV and my mother wasn't home. So I just, like, didn't really faze me. So I'm very comfortable being in the house, but I have made an extra effort to get out regularly, but it's not because I feel like I'm just all up in the space and we're all there together. It's just, you should be going out because you're an adult. I mean, you should be going to work. You should be meeting up with your friends. If not, you need to work on that. Number 7, he says to reevaluate your habits, which if you are like me, so if you stayed at home and you never left, but if you left and you came back, and you had gained, did new habits from living on your own. So for me, particularly walking around pretty much naked, like, I had roommates, so I didn't really walk around naked. But when I lived alone, man, pretty much naked. My mother says it all the time. Like, damn, can you put some clothes on? Like, at least not for me, but for your brother. Like, why are you an exhibitionist? She says it all the time. You are an exhibitionist. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm just wearing an underwear and my bra, a sports bra. That is like my preferable, like, outfit of choice especially during the summer, spring. Even now, if it's not too cold in the house. And that's because when I lived on my own, I used to keep my apartment at 70 all day long. So it was possible for me to walk around like that. But if you do that, you should probably, try to be more respectful. Like I tend to do it when nobody's home. And if they are home, I tend to keep it in my room and I'll just like put a robe on when I go out into the common areas. So reevaluate your habits. Like, I know for me, I like to play music really loud at night while drinking wine and dancing in the dark and crying over a fuckboy. I can still do that. I just need to keep the volume down because I need to remember that I am in somebody else's house. So, like, you know, the habits that you have, you just gotta have to, like, you know, change them. If you're used to like smoking in the house or whatever, like, don't do it if they don't want you to do it. So yeah, reevaluate your habits that you gained from living as an adult, as you and then, you know, before you came back home. And number 8, he said leave on good terms. Now, I don't know, again, this is why I knew it was a white man's list, because I was like, leave on good terms, like, what the fuck are you doing that you end up leaving on bad terms? I could not imagine. I don't know what would have to happen for me to leave on bad terms, but I'm not planning on it. So don't leave on bad terms. Leave on good terms. This is the white girls list. And I say this because you can tell the difference, trust me. So number 1, create your own space. So, you know, decorate your space. She was talking about, like, you know, like if you're moving back into your childhood bedroom, like, you know, reorganize and stuff. I definitely agree. This is definitely a girly list right here because the man did not have the whole create your own space thing. So for me, what happened when I realized that I'm probably going to be here for a little bit, not forever, but for a little bit, I actually repainted the room that I'm in, because before, the room that is currently my room was a bright fucking Pepto-Bismol pink, which I fucking hated. It was just like, why did you paint this room this color? Like, my mother painted the room this color because, you know, she could finally paint. It was like her house. And I was like, but why did you pick this Pepto-Bismol color? It's disgusting. And it was like alternating pink and white. Like 2 walls were pink and 2 walls were like white or creamish. And I was like, oh, I hate it. So when I was getting my life together and finally was like, okay, I'm going to get out of grad school and I'm not depressed anymore and all that stuff, I painted my room what I saw as calming. So my, you know, happy place is the beach. I'm a water sign. I'm a Cancer. I just love being in the water. So I painted, you know, and I painted the room this nice turquoise blue, which reminds me of the beach and the sky. It also helps with like seasonal depression because it's like bright and welcoming and warm. And then I also painted it gray too, so kind of like balance it, because we have wainscoting, which, you know, is like that little like if you see like a wall and they have like that like kind of panel that separates like the top part of the wall and the bottom part of the wall, that's what I have in my room. And so I made the bottom part gray so that it kind of like, you know, kind of like seems grounded, kind of like sand, like black sand, a black sand beach, kind of just, you know, it makes it easier to mesh. So I painted the room. I am also someone who just cannot not have decorations in my room. Like, it's just, I need to have things up on the wall. I need to be looking at things. I've always been that way. When I was a teenager, I was one of the teenagers that had posters all over their walls. I mean, every single wall had a poster on it. Like, I got them posters from Word Up and Black Beat and all these, and 17 magazine, all these different things. And I had like Immature and Usher and Tupac and TLC and Monica and Aaliyah and all these people just plastered all over my walls, like just all over. And when I went to college, it was like, you know, different pictures and stuff. But like, even now I have a gallery wall. I have 2 gallery walls, maybe three gallery walls in my room of like pictures of my family, different paintings and stuff that I've accumulated from my travels and from living on my own. I still have tons of art that is packed up. And so when I move into my house, trust me, the first thing that will be unpacked, will, like, maybe even before my clothes. No, clothes come first, but maybe before even kitchen utensils. Like, one of the first things that you'll see up, if nothing else is done, there will be things on the walls. If nothing else is done, even when I lived in California and I had barely any furniture, there were things on that wall. So that is something that you definitely need to do. Create your own space. Be comfortable in your space. Number 2, she says, set boundaries. Hell the fuck yeah. You're an adult now. It is not, they can't just say like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. You need to set boundaries. And I wish I had thought about that beforehand when I first come in, because it was like kind of like growing pains figuring out what the boundaries were. Because like, again, when I left, my brother was like, let's see, I was 18 when I left. So he was 8. And he was still a little kid. And when I came back, he was like grown. And then like I felt like I could still talk to him like he's a kid. And I realized that I couldn't. Like we got into a fight. He got mad at me, and then I had to apologize and say, like, I'm sorry that I spoke to you like you were a child. Like, you're not a child, you're a young adult, and I am sorry. And realizing that, like, I'm not his mom, I'm his sister. I'm his older sister, and I can't treat him like he is my child, even though that is how our relationship was before I left home, because of how my mother had me watching him. So you got to set firm boundaries, especially if there's other people in the house. With your parents, you need to set firm boundaries of, like, this is my space. Like, this is your house, but like, this is also my space. I'm an adult. I can leave and go whenever I want to. Now, if you have certain things about, like, certain ways that you want me to come in the house, like, make sure I'm quiet if I come in super late, or to send you a text if I'm coming in 3:00 in the morning or not coming home, cool. Because I understand that it is your house, and you would want to know if someone you're expecting to be in the house is in the house or not in the house. And for me, some of those boundaries, it took a while, but we have found something that makes sense. Like, most of the time when my mother wants to nag at me, I just let her nag. Before, I used to talk back, and it would just get into a huge fight. I'm like, I'm grown, I don't know who you're like talking to, lady. And now it's just like, usually I just let her nag, and I'll just talk under my breath like I'm in high school again, but just I will just deal with it. Or I will try to do things before she's able to nag at me, because I know the nagging is coming. And it's her house. And even when we have like different preferences of things. So she was gone for 2 weeks, right? She was gone, and it was just me and my brother in the house. And so I was the one like doing most of the responsibilities. I was doing the laundry, I was cleaning, I was cooking. Well, not really cooking, because I didn't feel like cooking, and the boy can get his own food. So she came back, and she was like, oh my gosh, I had to like scrub the tub. I was like, it was not dirty, lady. I was here for 2 weeks. You think I was in a dirty tub? She was like, well, I was like, I scrubbed it the other day. She was like, no, well, you didn't scrub it the way I like it. And I was like, that is a difference. So kind of knowing how to pick and choose your battles. Like, I wasn't going to continue to fight her about it. I wasn't going to get offended. I was like, lady, like, I cleaned it. It was not dirty. Trust me. It was not dirty. I cleaned it. I definitely cleaned this bathroom. It's not to what you want, because that is your preference, and it's your house, and it's your bathroom. But like, you have to know where to set boundaries. So for me, it's just kind of knowing like where my spaces are. Like, I'll tell you now, and it's part of the perks of living at home, but then also part of like keeping the peace. I don't clean other spaces in the house. Like, I don't clean the bathroom. I don't do the laundry. And I really don't clean the kitchen. Like, I'll do spot cleaning if I have to, but I'm not going to do the deep cleaning, mainly for the fact that I know that she has a certain preference on how she wants things cleaned. And I don't want to have to do something and then have her be like, oh, well, you didn't do it the way I like it, so I'm going to do it again. Because that is the worst thing, to have put work into something and then have someone come back and clean after you. Like, get the fuck out of here. Don't do that. So for me, I've just kind of seen my space as like, spot cleaning behind myself. Sometimes I'm not as great as I should be, but I do it. But I also, like, for me, it's tidying up. Like, I organize everything that I can get my hands on. I reorganized the linen closet twice since I've been here. I've reorganized closets, my brother's closet, my mother's closet. It didn't stay exactly the way it should be, but I'm still on this long, hard project of reorganizing this house. I already told y'all that I was collecting bedding. If you watch me on Instagram, that I cleared out some of the extra bedding in the house and donated them because it was just getting on my fucking nerves. I threw out old suitcases. Like, it's just, this is the kind of things that I can't live with, but like, it's in my wheelhouse. It's something that I know my mother would not do, but she would appreciate it, even though she doesn't upkeep it. And so, because I learned from Marie Kondo, goddess Marie Kondo, that if people don't do it themselves, they won't keep it up because they don't understand the system. But for me, I just, it takes too long for my mom to get to the organizing part. She's like, I'm rubbing off on her. She's like finally throwing things out that are like super old and like putting away her winter clothes now, finally. Putting away her summer clothes now, finally, and switching out her winter clothes. But she's just like throwing the like folding, like haphazardly folding and just like throwing the clothes like onto a shelf. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be organized. Like, you could be putting this in a way, like you should be folding it Marie Kondo style and making sure that you have it in like, in a way that you can see every single every single thing, but I know that it's a battle I have to choose. And if I want to see it that way, I'm going to have to go and get the materials and do it myself. So that is my next project, to reorganize my mother's closet again. But yeah, set some firm boundaries. Also, I have pretty much just gotten over the fact that she needs to know where I am at all fucking times. Not like to be like, hey, like, I'm your mom, you shouldn't be over there. But just for her peace of mind. And we are living in a crazy world. And I just, recently saw something that was talking about the rise in human sex trafficking and just trafficking of organs, especially like of Black women. It's not necessarily happening in the Boston area or where I live, but it seems to be happening in major cities with large Black populations. And so I see that there is a need for her to know where I am. Like, people get snatched in the suburbs too. Remember when there was those women that were jogging and got killed in the suburbs? Like, I get it. If she needs to know where I am, I let her have it. So she has me on Apple location. Like, as I tell people, my mother knows where I am at all times. Like, she'd be stalking me out of nowhere. I'm like, why are you stalking me right now? Like, it's not even nighttime. It's not dark. Why are you asking me why I'm in Fall River? It's none of your business, lady. What am I doing in Fall River? Minding my motherfucking business. But at least I'm in Massachusetts and I'm moving. I'm alive. So there you go. But if I'm not answering you, now you know where the kidnapper is taking me. So it's cool. But it also helps for me too, because I know where she is at all times. So if I want to have some private time in the house, I want to know when she's going to be coming home, I can always see where she is. And like, okay, so she's still at work. Oh, she's over here. Okay, cool. So I got some time. This is getting really long, but I hope this is helpful. So number 3, she says, remind yourself of the money you are saving. I already talked about this. That's how you keep yourself motivated. Like, you are saving money. And so you should keep that as your motivation while you deal with the boundary settings and the, parenting that they try to do, even though you're a grown ass fucking adult. Number 4, she said, let go of the opinions of others. So this again this is pretty similar to what the guy said about, like, remind yourself that this is normal. In the other list, the white guys list. Yes, forget what other people are thinking, because again, I already told you more than 1 out of 4, millennial Americans are living at home with their families. So ain't nobody got no room to judge. Okay. You should not be concerned about what other people are doing unless you are a basement bum, unless you are couch surfing, basement, weed smoking, even though weed smoking is fine. So I don't know, opioid smoking, heroin shooting, Cheetos eating. Oh, I love Cheetos, but just sitting on, like, doing nothing, like not trying to work, not looking for work, just sitting around, just letting everybody pay for your bills, financially independent. Then you should not be worried about what other people are thinking, because you have your reasons and they have their reasons for what they're doing. And we all just need to just stay in our lanes unless they intercross. And so for me, it's like, okay, that's why I already have my thing. I was like, yeah, I live at home, my mom, but I have excellent credit and money in the bank, bitch. Okay. And, less loans than you have right now. And I have guaranteed food at home. So when people are worried about me talking about, like, oh my gosh, you can get through this, I'm like, I hope y'all don't think I'm desolate, because there is food in the house, there's a roof over my head, and there's money in the bank. And so even though I'm unemployed, I am not destitute. I'm not living under a bridge, like my job would like me to do with the amount of wages they were paying me. So let go of other people's opinions. 5, focus on what's going well in your life. That's what I like to do. I just did it. I told you. That's why I always have the list. I have excellent credit, kids. And I look cute and I travel. 6, take advantage of living situations. Like I said, there's food in the house. Like there will always be food, even if, like, you ate your mama's cookies or her yogurt, like you can go and get it back. But like, if you're really hungry at that point, there's, like, you're not walking into a house that has no food in it, because most parents, from years of parenting, always have food in their fridge. So that's the great thing about it. Take advantage of that. I take advantage of the fact that my mama does my laundry, which I had to do my own laundry when she was gone. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is like so ridiculous. And I went back into my own habits of, like, laundry will get done when I will get done, man. Like when I used to live alone, I only did laundry when I ran out of underwear, which worked for me, because you end up wearing all your clothes. But it doesn't work here, because I had to do my brother's laundry too, so I did the laundry. But my mother said, don't do her laundry. I was like, okay, fine, see, because that's setting boundaries. She don't want me touching her stuff and fucking her shit up so she can get mad at me. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do my own laundry. I'll do the boys' laundry. And But now that she's back, she has done my laundry, and my laundry is in the basket right now, and I didn't have to do it. It was great. And there's free cable, even though, like I said, I kick her some money here and there for the cable, but usually at the end of the year, like one big check, like, here you go, here's like a tax refund check. But like free cable, like free, like there's furniture that I didn't have to buy, like a fully furnished house. Those are perks of living at home, because if you live on your own and you have to buy those things, like, you know, usually it's like bare bones, or you got like, you know, makeshift furniture. Not when you live at home with your family who have already been established and they got like furniture and shit. We got new furniture this year too. I was so happy. I was like, ooh, yeah, I'll get new couches, because she had the same couches that we had when we were back in the old house. And I feel like my brother wasn't even born yet when she had bought those couches. Now there's like new great couches, and I was like, yes. And I helped pick them, even though I didn't pay for them. So it was great. Number 7, she says, give yourself a deadline for moving out. Definitely. Like, you know, like I told you, I thought I was probably going to be there a year or two, but I didn't really have a deadline. And now, it's not even like a timeline deadline. You should just have like certain things that you have in your thought process of when it is appropriate time for you to move out. So for me, I'm not moving out until I can buy something. I'm not moving out to go rent. Okay, I'm not giving nobody 93% of my fucking income, and I ain't getting no tax break for that shit. Okay. So when I move out, I told you, I'm looking for that steady stream of income. When I got that steady stream of income, I can go to the bank and be like, okay, give me my FHA loan. I'll go get me my fucking 2-family house and live in one of the apartments for a year, rent free, while my tenant pays my fucking mortgage. And then I'll go buy myself my single family house, with my man, without my man, but whatever. But that is my deadline, when I have the steady stream to go to the bank and they won't look at me funny. Like, where's your money coming from? Like, oh, my money's coming from here. I've been getting this for like 6 months. I'll give it 6 months, 6 months to a year. Then I'm moving the fuck out. And during that time, I will be collecting fucking furniture. I'm not moving out until I have a fully furnished house. Okay. We're not doing the house with no furniture. So, this is getting really long. Didn't think it would be that long, but okay. So let me get to my list. This is Toya T's list. Okay. This is the Black Woman PhD list. This is your homegirl list. So I only got 3 things on this list, because the other 2 lists, you know, one had 8 tips, one had 7 tips. Like, that's 15 tips. What else can I add? So here's what I add. 1, enjoy your time alone. Okay. So that mofo, the white man say, like, get out regularly. Yeah, you should go out. You definitely should go out. But when you have time alone, you live at home with your parents, and maybe you have like another sibling or family member that lives there too. The beauty of when they're not there is the best time. Like, take advantage of your time alone, because you may not have it. If you are like me and intend to, you know, one day partner up with another human being and have, you know, children, procreate. After that, you don't have much time alone. And so take advantage of your time alone. Trust me, I do it all the time. I am always so happy when people are not in the house. Like I know tonight, Monday nights, no one is home. My brother works and my mother has someplace to be. Friday nights, same thing. Saturday during the day, same thing. Sometimes Sunday during the day, same thing. But usually Sunday night, about the same thing. I treasure those moments of not having anybody in the house. And I do whatever the fuck I want. I eat an edible. I drink wine. I dance around in my underwear and do crazy moves. I freaking play my music really loud. I have some oops, oh my, you know, there goes my skirt over my head, oh my. No, on my shirt over my head, my skirt to the floor. I have my personal time, you know, with my personal massagers. But I take advantage of my alone time to get the me time in that I don't get as much with 2 other people in the house. So take advantage of your time alone. Take advantage of your time alone. If you got to go out when everybody's here. Go out when people are home. When people are not home, stay home. That's what I would tell my friends. I was like, I don't know if I want to come off of that, because, you know, ain't nobody home right now. Like, I'm wasting my alone time. Like, it'd be better if you asked me to come out on Saturday at 6, because that's after when my brother comes home from work. And, you know, during from 9 to 6, I'm home alone, because my mom is usually somewhere else every other Saturday. So I don't know if I can come for that. Okay, I can do brunch, but I gotta be quick, and then I gotta come back home and take advantage of my alone time. After that, I'm all yours. Like, when people are home, I can be out. Number 2, remember you are grown, but still your parents' child. I had to learn that. And that's a part of setting boundaries, but this is something completely different than what white boy and white girl was saying. And I'm particularly talking about like the fact that you know you're grown and you talk to other people who are grown in a certain way. And even though you're living in your parents' house and it feels like you have roommates, you're not equal because it's their house and also they're your parents. So I had to learn several times that I cannot talk to my mother in certain ways and that there's certain boundaries. So I realize I'm an adult, so I can swear. I say fuck, I say shit, I say bitch, cunt. No, mommy, not cunt, but ass, all that stuff. I swear in front of my parents because I'm an adult. I'm a fucking grown ass woman, right? But I've also learned that I cannot swear at my mother. I can't be like, fuck you, bitch. Shut the fuck up, bitch. Even though I can say that to my friends, I cannot say that to my mama. Like, trust me. We had a whole big fight where she didn't talk to me for like 2 weeks, and it was torture. Where I had written something on my Facebook, which again, that's why I don't like family being up on your social medias. But again, you got to set boundaries. So my Facebook is my open space where my grandma, my mom, my dad, and my aunts, my uncles, everybody can follow me. My Instagram, even though it's open, is my safe space. My mama is not allowed to be on Instagram. I have blocked certain people from being able to see my Instagram because that is the place where I will say fuck, shit, bitch, all kinds of stuff. Because when I put that on my fucking Facebook, she was like, why do you gotta speak like that? So undignified. Like, why do you have to speak like that? And I was like, I can say what the fuck I want, bitch. I can say what the fuck I want. I'm fucking grown. And she was like, excuse me? And I said, I can say fuck, shit, motherfucker, fuck, fuckity, fuck, da, da, da. I did all that. And she was like, okay. And she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. And I was devastated. Like, completely ignored me. Like, I was shit on the bottom of her shoe. Okay. So I was like, okay, cannot talk to my mama like that. Cannot go at her like I would go at one of my friends because she's my mama, even though I'm an adult. And even though sometimes she talked to me like I'm a child and I'm like, lady, I am grown. There are certain things that you got to pick and choose your battle. So you have to remember you are grown. So there's certain things that you can still do. I can go out whatever the fuck I want to. You don't have to know where the fuck I am. I can wear whatever I want out the house. I can swear if I want to. I can watch bad movies and drink in front of you. I can openly tell you that I got edibles in your fucking fridge because I'm an adult in a state where recreational marijuana is legal. But I can't be saying like fuck you, bitch, and fuckity fuck at her like that. So that's what I've learned. So remember, you are grown, but you're still somebody's child. Number 3, and this is the last one and most important, do not move out before you are ready. Like I was saying before, I have a deadline of like when I have a steady stream of income, that's when I'm moving out. When I can buy a house, that is when I'm moving out. When I can move into a fully furnished house that I have fully furnished, that is when I'm moving out. Because I am not going to have nobody clowning me because I moved out before I was ready to. And I ain't got no furniture like I'm Sheree on Real Housewives of Atlanta. If you watch that show or remember when she had divorced her husband and she was living in that apartment, and they showed that her kids were sleeping on a fucking air mattresses, and she was building this huge Chateau Charest mansion for herself, and her kids were sleeping on air mattresses. Oh, hells no. When you look around them houses, like on reality TV, and they got these big ass houses, and they ain't got no furniture, you ain't gonna be clowning me like that. When I tell you, oh, here come to my housewarming, I finally moved out my mama house. Let's celebrate. We're gonna have a big ass party. When you come to that big ass party, it's gonna be a fully fucking furnished house. Fucking furnished, decorated house. We ain't playing that nonsense. There's no reason for me to move the fuck out of here into an empty ass space. Hell the fuck no. Do not move out before you're ready. Move when you're ready, when your finances are in place, when your furniture is in place, when your life is in place, then you move. Then you say, thanks, mom and dad, deuces, here's a goodbye present, mostly me getting the fuck out your house and maybe a nice bottle of wine or whatever they like. And you move the fuck out with all your shit and your new shit into your new place. And you tell them, call before you come visit. And with that, I'm done with this topic. I'm going to do a really short figure this out because I don't want to keep you guys for too long. It's almost 2 hours on this thing. And I don't expect to be doing much editing because I feel like there's a lot of information that definitely needs to be said. So figure this out for me, guys. So I told you guys that I'm trying to date and doing online dating. So I'm been a lot more proactive. I decided to focus on one app. So I used to use Hinge, but for some reason Hinge was having issues, and I had downloaded Bumble and Tinder after people told me that Bumble and Tinder are like the new shit that people are meeting people on. So and Tinder, it was just like I had tried Tinder before, and I'm probably going to try it again, but I was like, let me try Bumble, because I'd never really tried Bumble. So I'm on Bumble, where the whole premise is that, as I said on the online dating apps episode, is that Bumble is like very popular because it's the females are the ones with the power. So you are the one, after you have swiped right on somebody and someone has already swiped right on you, you're the one who's supposed to contact the male. If you're heterosexual, I don't know how it works if you're a woman looking for another woman. So that's weird. I don't know how that would work out. But so I've been doing that, and, using what's great about it is that they have these like pre-written like responses to start off the conversation. And so I saw this guy and I was like, oh, he's cute. Like, I'm just going to be open. And so I sent him one of the like pre-written messages. And the question that I asked was like, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Right? Just, like, it's like chocolate or, vanilla, what's yours? And I can say like cake batter, and we can get into a whole conversation about like, we should go get some ice cream, blah, blah, blah. Instead, what did this mofo say to me? And you can explain this to me. Where the fuck did this come from? So let me know, when did poom poom become a flavor? If you don't know what poom poom is, it's pussy. The vagina. The vajayjay. This motherfucker told me his favorite flavor of ice cream is poom poom flavor, and then put like a wink emoji, a tongue emoji, a fire emoji. And I said, are you out of your fucking mind? What the hell? This is what I hate about online dating. Like, where are these creeps coming from? When that wasn't even a nasty question. That wasn't even like sexual innuendo. That was just like a regular, hey, I don't know you, let me ask you a question. And he led with just the nastiness. Like, where is this coming from? Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe there is poom poom flavor ice cream out there. Let me know. But like, I cannot understand how a grown ass man in his 30s can think that that was an appropriate answer to a very simple question. Like, if I had said like, yo, what's your favorite sexual position? Then you could start talking about shit. But what if I ask you, what is your favorite ice cream flavor? Do not come at me with no poom poom and no licky emoji. Okay. I did not ask that. I did not want to know that information. I don't even fucking know you. Okay. And so this, I just don't understand. Let me know. What can I do? Is there another like clean app, or I'm not going to have that? I mean, Bumble was the last place I thought I would get that kind of response. Tinder was known as the hook up app. Now it's kind of like, revamped, and people are meeting husbands and wives on there. But like Bumble was like, I thought this was like, the place where the women make the moves, and like it's supposed to prevent this like perviness, but that is just disgusting. And I don't get it. I don't know what I can do. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Am I in the wrong city? I think I'm in the wrong city, but still, help me out, folks. Let me know. Figure this out for me. What the hell is going on with the dating scene right now? Just let me know. And with that, I'm done. It is a long episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, thank you everybody that left me ratings and reviews on this podcast. It is very, very, very helpful. If you have not done so, please go over to Apple Podcasts, the app, or go to iTunes. If you have like a PC, you can sign in, get an Apple ID, and go give this podcast a rating. Share with your friends. Tell them to rate and subscribe. If you do not have access to Apple Podcasts because you're an Android user, and you just don't want to get an Apple ID or iTunes account, you could just leave me a review wherever you're listening to this. It's very helpful. Trust me, it's very, very helpful. And even more helpful would be if you share this with your friends. Share it with everyone who has lived at home with their parents as an adult, or is thinking about living at home with their parents as adults, or is currently living at home with their parents as adults, or anyone that just, or if you're a parent if you're an adult parent and you have adult kids coming back home, like, share with them, share with everybody, share this so we can continue to grow as a group. This podcast is continuously growing. I'm very, 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 very thankful to everyone that's listening. And there's been a couple people that have reached out to me, and I really, like, on Instagram, in person, on Facebook, on all kinds of different platforms, and I really do appreciate your feedback and your support. Trust me, it keeps me going, it keeps me motivated, it keeps me very much focused on continuing to grow this, because this is one of the things that I want to do. I told you in the last episode, this is like one of my tombstone titles. I want to be known as like a popular podcast host, and I can see that it works. Like, I'm giving you guys my life, telling you the truth, telling you all my business, and somehow it is working, it's resonating. But this is always how I've been, how I've operated, and I don't intend to operate any other way. So thank you again. Let's continue to grow as a group. I would really appreciate it if you want to keep up with me and get up-to-date information about me, about the podcast, to go over to figureoutyourlifeblog.com and sign up for the email newsletter. It'll be coming out weekly. I'm just waiting to get the first one will come out this week. I think I said I was going to send it out last week, but it will come out this week. I am on my P's and Q's. I am fully focused. I am re-energized. I am ready to take this to the next level. So let's just continue to grow as a group. And with that, everyone, I hope that you have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time you're listening to this, wherever you are. Just, have a blessed week. And I will talk to you guys next week. All right. Bye-bye.